I stood in my daughter's marble kitchen on Christmas Eve, wearing a stained apron while her wealthy friends laughed at me through the doorway. My son-in-law had just handed me dirty plates like I was the maid. Lauren, my own daughter, didn't say a word. She just smiled and turned away. That night, eating cold leftovers alone by the sink while champagne glasses clinked in the next room, I didn't know I'd already lost $47,000 to the man humiliating me. But I was about to find out. And when I did, everything changed. If you want to see how this ends, stay with me until the last word. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. I remember the exact weight of the gift bags in my hands when I walked up to Lauren's front door that Christmas Eve. 3 bags. One for Lauren, one for Damien, one for their house. Because that's what mothers do, right? We show up, we give, we pretend everything's fine even when our gut tells us it's not. The house was massive. I mean, I'd seen it before, but that night it looked different. Every window glowed gold. There were white lights wrapped around every column, every tree, every shrub. A hired crew must have done it. Lauren never liked decorating. Even as a kid, she'd sit on the couch while I strung the lights alone. I rang the doorbell, waited. Through the frosted glass, I could see people moving, shadows, laughter, music. Nobody came. I rang again. Finally, the door swung open. Damien stood there in a tailored navy suit, a glass of scotch in one hand, his phone in the other. He didn't look at me. He looked past me, like I was a delivery driver. "Evelyn," he said flatly, "you're late." "I'm 5 minutes early," I said, forcing a smile. He glanced at his watch, some luxury brand I didn't recognize, then turned and walked back inside without holding the door. I caught it with my elbow and stepped into the foyer. The house smelled like cinnamon and wealth. There were people everywhere. Men in suits, women in cocktail dresses. A waiter passed by with a tray of champagne flutes. I didn't recognize a single face. "Lauren?" I called out. No answer. I set the gift bags on the marble console table by the door and smoothed down my sweater. It was cream-colored, wool, the nicest thing I owned. I'd bought it on sale 3 years ago and saved it for special occasions. Standing in that foyer, surrounded by people who probably spent more on their shoes than I did on groceries in a month, I felt small. "Evelyn!" I turned. Lauren came gliding down the hallway in a black dress that hugged her like silk and probably cost more than my car payment. Her hair was swept up. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like someone I used to know. "Mom," she said, but she didn't hug me. She did that air kiss thing, barely brushing my cheek. "I thought you weren't coming." "I told you I'd be here at 6, I said. "Right." She glanced back toward the living room. "Well, everyone's already eating appetizers, so just mingle, I guess." "Should I put these somewhere?" I gestured to the gift bags. She looked at them like I'd brought roadkill. "Sure, just leave them by the stairs or something." And then she was gone. I stood there for a minute, holding my purse, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. Mingle with strangers. At my own daughter's house. I walked toward the living room. The space was huge. Vaulted ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, a chandelier that probably cost more than I made in a year. People clustered in groups, talking, laughing, holding drinks. I didn't see a single person over 50 except me. A waiter walked by. I tried to catch his eye, maybe grab a glass of water, but he moved past me without stopping. I found a spot near the fireplace and stood there, clutching my purse like a shield. "Excuse me," a woman said, stepping around me to reach for a canapé on the mantel. She didn't say sorry. She didn't even look at me. I was invisible. 20 minutes passed, maybe 30. I watched Lauren move through the room like a host on a cooking show, smiling, touching arms, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. Damien stood near the bar, holding court with 3 other men, all of them leaning in like he was telling the secret to life. Nobody talked to me. I thought about leaving, just slipping out the front door and driving home. But that would hurt Lauren, wouldn't it? She'd be upset. She'd think I didn't care. So I stayed. Finally, Damien's voice cut through the room. "All right, everyone, dinner's ready. Let's move into the dining room." People started filing toward the hall. I followed, keeping to the edge of the crowd. The dining room was even more ridiculous than the living room. A table that could seat 20 people, set with white china, crystal glasses, silver candlesticks. It looked like something out of a magazine. Everything was perfect. Everything was cold. I looked for my name card. There wasn't one. I walked around the table slowly, checking every spot. Lauren's name was at the head. Damien's beside her. Their friends filled the rest. But not me. Lauren? I said quietly, catching her as she walked past. Yeah? She didn't stop moving. Where should I sit? She glanced at the table, then at me, and for a second, just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe. Or annoyance. Oh, she said. I thought you knew. We didn't have enough chairs, so we figured you could eat in the kitchen. There's a stool by the island. I stared at her. You're joking. It's not a big deal, Mom. You don't even like fancy dinners. I don't... I stopped, took a breath. Lauren, I'm your mother. I know, and I love you, but we have guests. She said it so casually, like I wasn't one. Mom, please don't make this a thing, she added, lowering her voice. Just go eat in the kitchen. I'll come check on you in a bit. She walked away before I could respond. I stood there, frozen, while everyone else took their seats. The room filled with chatter and laughter. Someone popped a bottle of champagne. I heard Damien's voice rise above the noise. Before we start, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Lauren and I are so grateful to have such incredible people in our lives. Applause. I turned and walked toward the kitchen. The swinging door closed behind me, muffling the sound of the party. The kitchen was enormous. White marble, stainless steel, a Viking range that probably cost more than my entire house. There was a stool by the island, just like Lauren said, and on the counter, a single plate. Plain white. A piece of chicken. Some cold vegetables. A roll. No silverware, no napkin, no water. I pulled the stool out and sat down. Through the door I could hear them talking, laughing, toasting. I could hear my daughter's voice, bright and happy, saying something I couldn't make out. I picked up the roll and took a bite. It was stale. I sat there for a long time, chewing slowly, staring at the backsplash, trying not to cry. That's when Damien walked in. He didn't knock. He just pushed through the door, holding an empty wine glass. Oh, he said, like he was surprised to see me. Still here? I looked at him. Where else would I be? He smirked, set the glass on the counter. I don't know. I figured you'd have left by now. You don't really fit in with this crowd. I'm Lauren's mother. Yeah, he said, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. You are. And that's why we invited you. But let's be honest, Evelyn. You're not exactly one of us. I felt my chest tighten. One of you? You know what I mean. He gestured vaguely toward the dining room. These people are investors, entrepreneurs, professionals. They're building empires. He paused, looking me up and down. You're retired, living off Social Security, clipping coupons. It's fine. It's just different. I gripped the edge of the counter. I worked 40 years as a nurse. I raised Lauren by myself. I put her through college. And that's great, Damien said, his tone dripping with condescension. Really, we appreciate everything you did. But that was then. This is now. And now Lauren's married to me. She's part of my world, a world you don't understand. Then why did you invite me? He tilted his head like he was considering the question. Then he smiled. Because Lauren felt bad. She said you'd be lonely on Christmas, so we threw you a bone. A bone. I felt something crack inside me. Not break, just crack, like ice splitting. I think you should leave now, he said, straightening up. The real guests are finishing dinner, and honestly, it's awkward having you here. I'm not leaving, I said quietly. His smile faded. Excuse me? I'm not leaving, I repeated, louder this time. I'm Lauren's mother. I have every right to be here. He stared at me for a moment. Then he laughed. A short, sharp bark of a laugh. You really don't get it, do you? He stepped closer. You're here because we let you be here. You're eating in the kitchen because that's where you belong. And if you don't like it, there's the door. He pointed toward the side exit. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I saw it. The cruelty, the arrogance, the absolute certainty that he could say anything, do anything, and face no consequences. Does Lauren know you're talking to me like this? I asked. Lauren knows exactly who I am, he said. And she chose me, not you. He turned and walked out, letting the door swing shut behind him. I sat there, shaking. I don't know how long I stayed in that kitchen. Long enough for the voices in the dining room to fade into background noise. Long enough for my chicken to get cold. Long enough to realize that I was not imagining this. This was real. My daughter had let this happen. Eventually, the door swung open again. This time, it was a woman I didn't recognize. One of the guests, mid-40s, blonde, holding a stack of dirty plates. "Oh," she said, seeing me. "I thought you were the caterer." She set the plates on the counter beside me and walked out. I looked at the plates, smeared with food, greasy, stained with lipstick, and then I saw it. Sitting on top of the pile was an apron, white, folded neatly. I picked it up, unfolded it. There was a note pinned to the front, written in Damien's handwriting. "Since you're in here anyway." I stared at that note for a full minute. Then I heard the door swing open again. Lauren. She looked tired now. Her makeup was still perfect, but her eyes were dull. "Mom," she said softly, "are you okay?" I held up the apron. "What is this?" She glanced at it. "I don't know. Damien thought I should do the dishes." She sighed. "Mom, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Harder?" I stood up. "Lauren, your husband just told me I don't belong here. He said I'm not one of you. He handed me an apron like I'm the help." "He's just stressed," she said quickly. "He's been working so hard on this dinner, and what? I'm an embarrassment?" She didn't answer. That silence hit me harder than anything Damien had said. "You agree with him?" I whispered. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She crossed her arms, defensive now. "Mom, you don't understand the pressure we're under. Damien's building a business. We have investors to impress. We can't just what? Treat your own mother like a human being? You're being dramatic." "I'm being realistic." My voice cracked. "I came here tonight because you invited me. I brought gifts. I got dressed up. I showed up. And you stuck me in the kitchen like I'm a stranger." "You're not a stranger," she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Then what am I?" She looked away. "I don't want to fight." "Neither do I," I said. "But I also don't want to be treated like this." She stood there, staring at the floor, and I waited. Waited for her to say something, anything, an apology, an explanation, a sign that she still cared. But she didn't. She just turned and walked out. I stood there alone in that gleaming kitchen, holding a stranger's dirty plate, and I felt something inside me harden. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a choice. And if they could choose to treat me this way, I could choose how to respond. I set the plate down, folded the apron, placed it neatly on the counter. Then I walked out the side door, got in my car, and drove home. I didn't cry. Not on the drive. Not when I unlocked my front door and stepped into my dark, empty house. Not when I hung up my coat and sat down on the couch in silence. I just sat there, staring at the Christmas tree I decorated by myself, and I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt something. I felt done. For years, I'd told myself that Lauren was just busy, that she was building a life, that she'd come around eventually, remember where she came from, remember me. But that night, sitting in the quiet of my living room, I realized the truth. She had come around. This was who she was now, and I had been funding it. The thought hit me like a slap. The loan. 6 months ago, Damien had come to me with a proposal. He was starting a business, some kind of tech consulting firm, and he needed capital. He'd been charming, professional, full of promises. He'd shown me projections, graphs, timelines. He'd said it was a sure thing, low risk, high reward. And he'd said it would help Lauren. "She believes in me," he'd said, sitting in my kitchen, drinking my coffee. "But we need a little help to get off the ground, just a bridge loan. We'll pay you back in a year, with interest." I'd hesitated. I didn't have much saved, just my retirement fund and a small nest egg I'd been building for emergencies. But Lauren had asked me herself. She'd called me one evening, her voice soft and sweet, the way it used to sound when she was little. "Mom, this could change everything for us. We'd finally be stable. Damien's so smart and this business is going to work. But we need help. Just this once, please. How do you say no to that? I'd given them $30,000, and I'd signed papers giving Damien access to my account for business transparency, he'd said. So you can see how the money's being used. I trusted him. I trusted her. Now, sitting in my dark living room, I felt my stomach turn. I stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out my laptop. It took me 10 minutes to log into my bank account. I didn't check it often, once a month maybe, just to make sure everything was in order. The page loaded. I stared at the screen. My savings account balance, $8,342. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Still $8,342. That was impossible. 6 months ago, I'd had over $55,000 in that account. I clicked on the transaction history, my hands shaking. Withdrawal, $2,000. Authorization, Damien Holt. Withdrawal, $3,500. Authorization, Damien Holt. Withdrawal, $1,800. Authorization, Damien Holt. The list went on and on. Furniture stores, luxury car payments, restaurants I'd never heard of, a jewelry store, a trip to Napa Valley, over $47,000. Gone. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding. He'd stolen from me. No, not stolen. I'd given him access. I'd signed the papers. Legally, he probably hadn't done anything wrong. But morally? I grabbed my phone and called Lauren. It rang 4 times before she picked up. Mom, it's late. Where's my money? I said. Silence. What? Where is my money? I heard her breath hitch. What are you talking about? I'm looking at my bank account right now, Lauren. Damien has taken over $40,000. Where is it? Another pause, then quietly. It's for the business. The business I loaned him $30,000 for, not $47,000. He needed more, and he didn't think to ask me. He was going to tell you when. My voice was shaking now. When, Lauren? After he drained the whole account? Mom, you're overreacting. Overreacting? I stood up, pacing. I just spent Christmas Eve eating cold chicken in your kitchen while you entertain people who think I'm trash, and now I find out your husband has been stealing my retirement money, and I'm overreacting. He wasn't stealing, she snapped. You gave him access. You said you wanted to help. I wanted to help with a $30,000 loan, not fund your entire lifestyle. It's not... She stopped. I heard Damien's voice in the background, low and sharp. Then Lauren again, her tone colder now. Mom, I can't do this right now. We'll talk after the holidays. We'll talk now. No, we won't. She hung up. I stared at my phone, then I threw it across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked. I didn't care. I sank onto the couch and finally, I let myself cry. Not because I was sad, because I was angry. Mom, I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, a notepad, and every piece of paperwork I could find related to the loan. By the time the sun came up, I'd made a list. Every withdrawal, every date, every store. And I'd made a decision. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I called my bank as soon as they opened, explained the situation. The representative was polite but firm. Since I'd authorized access, there wasn't much they could do unless I could prove fraud. But I didn't authorize this, I said, pointing to the screen like she could see it. I authorized a business loan, not jewelry and cars and vacations. I understand, ma'am, but legally, can I revoke his access? Yes, I can help you with that right now. 20 minutes later, Damien Holt no longer had access to my accounts. Next, I called a lawyer. I didn't have money for a fancy one, but I found a woman who did free consultations. Her name was Rita, and she sounded tired but kind. I explained everything, the loan, the paperwork, the withdrawals. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Do you still have the original loan agreement? She asked. Yes. And does it specify the terms, the amount, the timeline? It says $30,000, repayment in 12 months. Then you have a case, she said. He breached the agreement. Everything over that $30,000, that's actionable. I felt a flicker of hope. What do I need to do? First, send him a formal demand letter. Outline what he owes, give him 30 days to repay. If he doesn't, we file a civil suit. How much will that cost? She paused. A few thousand up front. More if it goes to trial. I didn't have a few thousand. Not anymore. But I didn't care. Let's do it, I said. Just try. I spent the next week gathering evidence. Bank statements, receipts, emails, text messages. Every scrap of proof I could find that Damien had taken more than I'd agreed to give. And I didn't hear from Lauren. Not a call, not a text, nothing. It was like I didn't exist. On New Year's Eve, I sent the demand letter, certified mail, signature required. I imagined Damien opening it, reading it, realizing I wasn't going to just disappear. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Lauren. What the hell did you do? She said. No greeting, no preamble. I sent a legal demand for repayment, I said calmly. You're suing us? No, I'm asking for what I'm owed. If Damien refuses, then I'll sue. Mom, you can't do this. I can, and I am. Do you have any idea what this will do to us? Damien's trying to build a reputation. If word gets out that his mother-in-law is accusing him of what? Stealing, because that's what he did. He didn't steal. You gave him the money. I gave him 30,000. He took 47. She was quiet. Lauren, I said, my voice softer now. I don't want to hurt you, but I also won't let him take everything I worked for. I need that money. It's my future. And what about my future? She said, her voice breaking. You're going to destroy my marriage. Your marriage is destroying you. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know your husband humiliated me on Christmas. I know he's been lying to you about money. And I know you're so deep in his world that you can't see what he's doing. You're wrong. Then prove it. Show me the business. Show me where the money went. Silence. That's what I thought, I said. She hung up. I set my phone down and stared out the window. It was snowing, soft, quiet flakes drifting down like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong, and it was about to get worse. 3 days after I sent that demand letter, I was in my kitchen making coffee when someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking. Pounding. I froze, mug in hand, and listened. The pounding continued, harder now, rattling the frame. Mom, open the door! Lauren. I set the mug down and walked slowly to the entryway. Through the peephole, I could see her standing there, face red, hair falling out of its usual perfect style. Damien stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw clenched. I unlocked the door but kept the chain on. What do you want? I asked through the gap. What do I want? Lauren's voice cracked with fury. I want you to stop this insanity, right now. I'm not doing anything insane. I'm protecting what's mine. You're destroying us. She slammed her palm against the door. Do you understand that? You're literally destroying my life. Damien leaned in, his face appearing beside Lauren's. Open the door, Evelyn. We need to talk like adults. We can talk like this. Open the door. His voice went cold. Something in his tone made my stomach clench, but I didn't move. If you want to talk, we can do it through lawyers, I said. Jesus Christ, Damien muttered. He turned to Lauren. Your mother's lost her mind. I can hear you, I said. He ignored me. Call her bluff. She won't actually sue. She doesn't have the money for a real lawyer. That stung because it was partially true. Rita had been honest with me about costs, but I'd already decided, if it came down to it, I'd sell my car, my furniture, whatever it took. I have enough, I said through the door. Damien laughed, a short, cruel bark. You have $8,000 in your account. I checked before you locked me out. The fact that he knew my exact balance made my skin crawl. You had no right to check that, I said. I had every right. You made me an authorized user, which I've now revoked. Doesn't matter. The money's already spent. You can't unspend it. He leaned closer to the gap in the door, and I could smell cologne mixed with something sharper. Anger, maybe. Or fear. Here's what's going to happen, Evelyn. You're going to withdraw that ridiculous legal demand, apologize for wasting everyone's time, and we're all going to move on with our lives. No. No? He said it like he'd misheard me. No, I want my money back. All of it. Not just the original 30,000, every penny you took without permission. Lauren made a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. Mom, please, please, you don't understand what this will do. Damien has investors, real investors. If they think there's any kind of legal trouble, they'll pull out. The whole business will collapse. Then maybe it should, I said quietly. What? If the business only survives because you stole from me, maybe it deserves to collapse. Damien's face darkened. I didn't steal anything. You signed the paperwork. For a $30,000 loan, not unlimited access to my retirement. Details, he said, waving his hand dismissively. You gave me authorization. That's legally binding. Not for amounts beyond what we agreed to. We'll see what a judge says. Yes, I said, we will. For a moment, nobody spoke. Lauren stared at me through the gap in the door, her eyes wet, her face pale. She looked exhausted. She looked 10 years older than she had at Christmas. Mom, she whispered, I'm begging you. Please don't do this. I'll pay you back, I promise. Just give us time. How much time? She glanced at Damien. He shook his head slightly. A year, she said. Maybe 2. 2 years? I felt something inside me snap. Lauren, I'm 63 years old. I don't have 2 years to wait while you and your husband spend my retirement on cars and jewelry. We're not spending it on that, she said quickly. It's all business expenses. Business expenses at Cartier? Her mouth opened, closed. Yeah, I said. I saw the withdrawals. I saw all of them. $4,000 at a jewelry store, $3,500 at some restaurant I've never even heard of, $6,000 for a weekend in wine country. That's not business. That's theft. Damien stepped forward, his shoulder against the door now. You want to talk about theft? Let's talk about how you guilt-tripped Lauren into marrying down. How you made her feel like she owed you something just because you raised her. That's emotional theft, Evelyn, and it's worth a lot more than 40 grand. I stared at him. Marrying down? You heard me. You think Lauren married down when she married you? He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I know she did, and so does she. Deep down, she knows she settled, but she did it because you couldn't handle the idea of her finding someone actually successful, someone who didn't need your money or your approval. I looked at Lauren. Is that what you think? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Lauren, I said, my voice breaking, answer me. Is that what you think? I think... She swallowed hard. I think you've never respected my choices. You've always acted like I can't take care of myself, like I need you to rescue me. Because you do need me to rescue you. Look at what he's doing to you. Look at what he's doing to us. He's not doing anything to me. We're partners. Partners don't lie to each other. Partners don't steal from each other's family. He didn't... She stopped, took a breath. When she spoke again, her voice was flat. I can't do this anymore. Either you drop the legal threat or we're done, you and me, permanently. The words hit me like a punch. You don't mean that, I said. I do. She looked at me now, and her eyes were hard. I mean it, Mom. Choose. The money or me? I felt tears burn behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall, not in front of them. If you're asking me to choose between my dignity and your love, I said slowly, then you've already made the choice for me. Lauren's face crumpled. For a second, I thought she might break, might take it back, might remember who we used to be. But then Damien put his hand on her shoulder and she straightened. Fine, she said. Then we're done. They turned and walked down the steps. I watched them through the peephole, watched Lauren stumble slightly, watched Damien grip her arm to steady her, watched them climb into their black SUV and drive away. I closed the peephole cover, locked the deadbolt, and then I slid down to the floor and sobbed. Not because I'd made the wrong choice. I knew I hadn't, but because I'd just lost my daughter, and I didn't know if I'd ever get her back. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I'd been alone before, after Lauren's father left when she was 3, after my own mother passed, after I retired and suddenly had too much time and too much silence. But this was different. This was a loneliness that had teeth. It bit down and wouldn't let go. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie awake at night replaying the conversation at my door, wondering if I should have just given in, wondering if keeping my money was worth losing my daughter. But then I'd remember the look on Damien's face when he told me I didn't belong at their dinner party, the apron with the note, the withdrawals I'd never approved, and I'd feel the anger return, sharp and clean. No, I'd made the right choice, even if it hurt. Rita called me on a Tuesday morning. Her voice was brisk, professional. I wanted to update you on the demand letter. We haven't received any response from Mr. Holt or his legal representation. What does that mean? It means he's either ignoring us or he's consulting with a lawyer and deciding how to respond. Either way, the 30-day deadline stands. If he doesn't pay by February 7th, we file the lawsuit. And if we file, then it becomes public record. He'll be named in a civil suit for breach of contract and unauthorized withdrawals. It won't be criminal, but it'll be on record. If he's trying to court investors, that could complicate things for him. I thought about what Lauren had said, about the investors pulling out, about the business collapsing. Good, I said. Rita paused. You're sure about this? Once we file, there's no going back. It'll get messy. I'm sure. Okay, then we proceed. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the calendar on the wall. February 7th was circled in red, 18 days away. I wondered if Lauren knew, if Damien had told her about the deadline, or if he was keeping her in the dark. I wondered if she thought about me at all. On January 23rd, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mrs. Carter? Yes? This is Ben Parrish. I'm an attorney representing Damien Holt. My stomach dropped. I'm calling about the demand letter you sent my client, he continued. I'd like to discuss a resolution before this escalates further. I have a lawyer, I said. I'm aware, but I thought it might be beneficial for us to have a preliminary conversation. Off the record. No need to involve additional legal fees on either side unless necessary. I didn't trust him, but I was curious. I'm listening, I said. My client acknowledges that there may have been some miscommunication regarding the scope of the financial arrangement between you. He's prepared to offer a settlement. What kind of settlement? He's willing to return the original $30,000 you loaned him, plus 10% interest. That comes to $33,000. I laughed. I couldn't help it. He took $47,000, I said. And you're offering me $33,000? Mrs. Carter, I understand your frustration, but legally speaking, you authorized my client to access your account. The withdrawals were made with your permission. Permission for a business loan, not for luxury purchases. That's a matter of interpretation. No, I said, my voice steady. It's a matter of fact. And unless your client is prepared to return every penny he took, $47,000, then we have nothing to discuss. Mrs. Carter, I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt something else too. Something that felt like power. For years I'd bent, I'd compromised. I'd swallowed my feelings to keep the peace, but not this time. This time, I was standing my ground. 3 days later, I was at the grocery store when I saw her. Lauren. She was standing in the produce section, holding a bag of apples, staring at them like she couldn't remember what apples were for. I almost turned around and left, but then she looked up and saw me. We stood there, 10 feet apart, frozen. She looked terrible. Her hair was limp, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, clothes I'd never seen her wear in public before. Mom, she said quietly. I nodded, didn't move closer. How are you? She asked. Fine. Are you still... She glanced around like she was worried someone might hear. Are you still going through with it? The lawsuit? Yes. Her face crumpled. Why? Why can't you just let it go? Because it's not about the money anymore, Lauren. It's about respect. Respect? She laughed bitterly. You're suing my husband because you want respect? I'm suing your husband because he stole from me and you won't admit it. He didn't steal. Yes, he did. I stepped closer. And you know it. Deep down you know exactly what he did. But you're so desperate to believe you made the right choice marrying him that you can't see the truth. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't know what it's like. Being married to someone like him, the pressure, the expectations. He's building something, Mom, something important, and I have to support him. Support him? Lauren, you're drowning. I'm not. Yes, you are. Look at yourself. When's the last time you slept? When's the last time you ate a real meal? When's the last time you smiled and meant it? She opened her mouth, closed it. The tears spilled over. I can't leave him, she whispered. I'm not asking you to leave him. I'm asking you to wake up. I am awake. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. And I'm choosing him. I'm choosing my husband. Over your own mother? Over someone who can't accept that I'm an adult with my own life. That stung. More than I expected. Fine, I said. Then you're choosing wrong. I turned and walked away, leaving my cart behind. I heard her call my name once, but I didn't stop. Maid. February 7th arrived. Rita called me at 9 in the morning. It's filing day, she said. I just need your final confirmation, and we'll submit the paperwork to the court. I sat on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, staring at a photo on the wall. It was Lauren, at age 7, missing her 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera. We'd been at the beach. She'd found a sand dollar and carried it around all day like treasure. Mrs. Carter? Rita's voice pulled me back. Are you still there? Yes. Do you want to proceed? I thought about that little girl, the one who used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms, the one who used to beg me to read just one more chapter before bedtime. And then I thought about the woman in the grocery store, the one who looked like a stranger. Yes, I said. File it. All right. I'll call you when it's done. She hung up. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone, staring at that picture. And then I got up, walked into my bedroom, and pulled out the box I kept under my bed. It was full of letters. Birthday cards Lauren had made me as a kid, Mother's Day drawings, a paper crown from some school play where she'd been a princess. I'd saved everything. I picked up one of the cards. It was construction paper, folded in half, with a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands. Inside, in wobbly handwriting, to the best mom in the world, I love you forever. Lauren. I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I put the card back in the box, closed the lid, and slid it back under the bed. That little girl was gone, and I had to accept that. At 2 in the afternoon, Rita called back. It's done, she said. The lawsuit is officially filed. Damien Holt has been served. How long until we hear back? He has 30 days to respond. After that, we move to discovery and depositions. Could take a few months before it goes to trial, depending on how he plays it. Okay, I said. Are you all right? I wasn't sure how to answer that. I will be, I said. After we hung up, I made myself tea and sat by the window, watching the neighborhood. A couple walked by with a stroller. A man mowed his lawn even though it was February and nothing was growing. Life kept moving. And so would I. That night my phone rang. Unknown number again. I answered. You bitch, Damien's voice, raw with rage. Excuse me? You actually did it. You actually filed. Yes. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have any concept of the damage you've just caused? I know exactly what I've done. I've held you accountable. He laughed, but it sounded unhinged. Accountable? You've destroyed us. My investors got wind of this. They're pulling out, every single one of them. My business is dead, Evelyn. Dead because you couldn't just let it go. You should have paid me back. I was going to pay you back. I just needed time. 2 years isn't time. It's an excuse. I hope you're happy, he snarled. I hope you enjoy your blood money, because you just cost your daughter everything. I didn't cost her anything. You did. She hates you. You know that. She told me tonight. She said she wishes you were dead. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my voice even. If that's true, then she can tell me herself. She won't, because she's done with you. We both are. Good. Silence. What? He sounded confused. I said good. If being done with me means you stop stealing from me, then I'm fine with that. You're insane. No, I'm just done being walked on. He hung up. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, cheap stuff from the grocery store, and drank it slowly, staring at the dark window. Somewhere out there, my daughter hated me. and somehow I had to find a way to live with that. Cook. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Lauren, no more threats from Damien, just silence. Rita kept me updated on the case. Damien had hired a lawyer, a decent one apparently, and they were preparing a response. She warned me it would probably claim I'd given full authorization and had no legal standing to demand repayment beyond the original loan. It's going to be his word against yours, she said, but we have the paper trail. The withdrawals speak for themselves. Will we win? She hesitated. I think so, but nothing's guaranteed. I tried not to think about it too much. Tried to focus on other things. I started walking every morning, not for exercise, really, just to get out of the house, to feel like I was moving forward, even if I wasn't sure where I was going. One morning in late February, I was walking past the park when I saw a woman sitting on a bench, crying. I almost kept walking. It wasn't my business. But something made me stop. Are you okay? I asked. She looked up, startled. She was younger than me, maybe mid-40s, with blonde hair and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. I'm fine, she said quickly, wiping her eyes. You don't look fine. She laughed, a broken sound. Yeah, I'm not. I sat down beside her. Didn't say anything, just sat. After a minute, she spoke again. My daughter won't talk to me. Haven't heard from her in 6 months. My chest tightened. What happened? I asked. She married someone I didn't approve of. I told her he was bad news. She said I was controlling. We fought, and now? She trailed off, staring at the ground. Now she's gone. I nodded slowly. I understand. She looked at me. Yeah? Yeah. We sat there for a while, two mothers mourning daughters who'd chosen someone else. Finally, she stood up. Thank you, she said, for stopping. Any time, I said. She walked away, and I stayed on that bench, watching the sun rise higher. I wasn't alone in this, and maybe that was enough, for now. March came in cold and gray, the kind of weather that makes you want to stay in bed all day, but I couldn't afford that luxury. I had a court date looming and a daughter who'd stopped existing in my world. Rita had warned me that Damien's legal team would try to drag this out, make it expensive, make me quit. But what they didn't understand was that I had nothing left to lose. My savings were already gone. My daughter had already chosen him. The only thing I had left was my spine, and I wasn't about to give them that too. On March 9th, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Rita, not from the court, from a debt collection agency. I stared at the envelope for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a notice claiming I owed $12,000 for a personal loan taken out in my name 18 months ago. A loan I'd never heard of, a loan I'd never signed for. My hands started shaking before I finished reading. I called Rita immediately. Someone took out a loan in my name, I said, my voice tight. $12,000? I never authorized this. When was it opened? I checked the letter. August 2 years ago. She was quiet for a moment. That was right around the time you gave Damien access to your accounts, wasn't it? My stomach dropped. You think he did this? I think it's worth investigating. Do you have any other documentation? Anything with your signature that you don't remember signing? I thought back to that day in my kitchen when Damien had brought over the loan paperwork. He'd had a whole stack of documents. I'd signed where he told me to sign, trusting him when he said it was all standard business stuff. Oh no, I whispered. What? There were other papers. He said they were just copies, backup documents for the business loan. I signed them because he said the bank needed multiple originals. Rita swore under her breath. Did you keep copies? No. He said he'd file them. Evelyn, I need you to listen to me very carefully. This is identity fraud. If Damien forged your signature or used your information to take out unauthorized loans, that's a criminal offense. Not civil, criminal. What does that mean? It means we need to file a police report. Today. I sat down hard on my couch. If I do that, he could go to jail. Yes. Lauren would never forgive me. Rita's voice softened. I know this is hard, but he's committed fraud. If you don't report it, you're liable for that debt. All of it. And if there's one loan you don't know about, there might be others. I felt sick. Let me look into it first, I said. Let me see if there are any other accounts. Evelyn, Please, just give me a few days. She sighed. Fine, but don't wait too long. The longer you wait, the harder it is to prove you didn't authorize it. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the letter. $12,000. Added to the $47,000 he'd already taken, that was nearly $60,000 total. My entire retirement, gone. I grabbed my laptop and started searching. Credit report, bank statements, any record I could find of accounts in my name. What I found made me want to throw up. There were 3 credit cards I'd never opened, all maxed out. Total balance, $18,000. There was a car loan for a vehicle I'd never seen. Balance, $31,000. There was a line of credit at a furniture store. Balance, $7,000. By the time I finished, the number had climbed to over $115,000 in debt that I hadn't known existed. I called Rita back. We need to file that police report, I said. My voice sounded hollow, even to me. I'll set it up, she said. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? Yes. Bring everything you found, every statement, every letter, every piece of evidence you have. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how I'd missed this, how I'd been so blind. But I knew the answer. I'd trusted him because Lauren loved him. I'd wanted to believe my daughter had found someone good, someone who'd take care of her. Instead, she'd found a thief, and I'd handed him the keys. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and stale air. I sat across from a detective named Morrison, who looked like he'd heard every sad story in the world and stopped caring somewhere around story number 3000. I told him everything. The loan, the access to my accounts, the withdrawals, the debt collection letters, the credit cards and car loans I'd never authorized. He took notes, his face expressionless. Do you have proof you didn't sign for these? He asked. I have proof I didn't know they existed until yesterday. That's not the same thing. I know, but the signatures, can't you compare them? Test them? We can try, but that takes time and money. And honestly, ma'am, even if the signatures don't match perfectly, his lawyer will argue you gave him authorization, that these were part of your financial arrangement. They weren't. I believe you, but belief doesn't hold up in court, evidence does. I felt my hope draining away. So what do I do? I asked. File a fraud report with the credit bureaus. Dispute every account you didn't open. Freeze your credit so he can't open anything else, and hope he's dumb enough to have left a trail. That's it? He looked at me with something that might have been pity. Ma'am, I see cases like this all the time. Family members stealing from each other, using trust as a weapon. Most of them don't go anywhere because the victim won't press charges. They don't want to hurt the family. They don't want the drama. So the thief gets away with it, and the victim ends up broken. I'm pressing charges, I said. Good. But understand, it's going to get ugly. Your daughter's husband is going to be arrested. There'll be a trial. Your family will be in the news. People will take sides. Let them. He nodded slowly. Then he slid a form across the desk. Sign here. This makes it official. I picked up the pen. My hand was steady. I signed. When I walked out of that police station, I felt lighter. Not happy, not relieved, just lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for months and had finally set it down. 2 days later, Damien was arrested. I wasn't there when it happened, but I heard about it from Rita. He'd been pulled over on his way to meet a client. 2 officers approached his car. He'd tried to argue, tried to charm his way out of it, but they'd put him in handcuffs anyway. He was charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Bail was set at $50,000. Lauren posted it within 6 hours. I found out because she called me for the first time in 2 months. Are you happy now? She screamed into the phone. No hello, no preamble, just rage. Lauren, he was arrested at a stoplight in front of everyone. Do you know how humiliating that is? Do you know how humiliating it was to find out he stole over $100,000 from me? He didn't steal it. You're lying. I have the statements, Lauren. I have the credit reports. He opened accounts in my name. He forged my signature. That's not a lie. That's a crime. You're destroying him. He destroyed himself. She was crying now, loud, gasping sobs. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just let it go? Because he committed fraud. Because he used me. Because he's using you. He's not using me. He loves me. Lauren, he stole from your mother to fund his lifestyle. Does that sound like love to you? You don't understand anything about our life. Then explain it to me. Explain how a man who loves you would put you in this position. Explain how stealing from your family is acceptable. She went quiet. I could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven. Mom, she said finally, her voice small. Please drop the charges, please. If you ever loved me, you'll drop them. And there it was. The ultimatum I'd been dreading. I can't do that, I said. Then we're done. You and me. Forever. If that's what you need to believe right now, then okay. I mean it, Mom. I will never forgive you for this. I know. She hung up. I set the phone down and stared at my hands. They were shaking again. I just lost my daughter. For real this time. Not in anger or frustration, but in a final, permanent way that felt like someone had reached into my chest and pulled out something vital. But I'd also done the right thing, and sometimes the right thing costs you everything. The next few weeks were a blur. Rita filed motions. Damien's lawyer filed counter motions. There were depositions and interrogations and so much paperwork I couldn't keep track of it all. The media picked up the story. A local news outlet ran a piece about family financial fraud, using my case as an example. They didn't name me directly, but they included enough details that people figured it out. I started getting looks at the grocery store, whispers at the bank. One woman stopped me in the parking lot and told me I was brave. Another told me I was a heartless witch who should be ashamed of myself. I stopped going out unless I absolutely had to. On April 2nd, Damien's lawyer tried to offer another settlement, $40,000 payable over 2 years in exchange for dropping the criminal charges and the civil suit. I said no. Rita warned me I might not win, that juries were unpredictable, that Damien's lawyer was good, the trials were expensive. I didn't care. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about standing up and saying no. No, you don't get to do this. No, you don't get away with it. No, you don't get to make me small. On April 15th, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? Mrs. Carter? A woman's voice, nervous, young. Yes? My name is Rachel. I'm Damien's assistant. Or I was. I quit last week. I sat up straighter. Okay. I need to talk to you about Damien, about what he's been doing. My heart started pounding. What do you mean? Can we meet? Somewhere public? I have documents, things you need to see. What kind of documents? She hesitated. Proof that he's been doing this to other people, not just you. I gripped the phone tighter. Where? We met at a coffee shop downtown. Rachel was in her late 20s, pretty in a tired sort of way, with dark circles under her eyes and bitten nails. She carried a messenger bag that looked like it weighed 50 pounds. She sat down across from me and didn't order anything. Thank you for meeting me, she said. What do you have? She pulled a folder out of her bag and slid it across the table. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, credit applications, loan documents, all with different names, different signatures, but the same handwriting, Damien's. He's been doing this for 3 years, Rachel said quietly, maybe longer. He targets people he can manipulate, older relatives, friends, business contacts. He gets access to their accounts, opens credit in their names, maxes everything out, and moves on before they notice. I felt cold all over. How many people? That I know of? 8, but I think there are more. Why are you telling me this? She looked down at her hands. Because I helped him. I didn't know what I was doing at first. I thought I was just filing paperwork. But then I started seeing patterns. People calling, confused about bills they didn't recognize, Damien brushing them off, saying it was a mistake. And when I asked him about it, he said... She stopped, swallowed. He said it was just business. That people like that, they didn't deserve the money anyway. That he was smarter, and he'd earn it back. Did you? Did I what? Earn it back? She shook her head. He never paid anyone back. He'd just move on to the next person. And I kept working for him because I needed the job, and I told myself it wasn't my problem. But then I saw the news story about you, and Her voice cracked. I realized I was helping him destroy people's lives. I looked at the documents again. 8 people, 8 families, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraud. Will you testify? I asked. She looked terrified. If I do, I could be charged as an accomplice. Not if you cooperate. Not if you tell the truth. She was quiet for a long time, then she nodded. Okay, I'll do it. I called Rita from the parking lot. We have a witness, I said. And evidence. Lots of it. What kind of evidence? The kind that proves Damien's been doing this to other people. The kind that makes this a pattern. She was silent for a moment. Evelyn, if that's true, this changes everything. This goes from a family dispute to a criminal enterprise. We're talking federal charges, serious prison time. Good, I said. Are you sure? Because once we hand this over to prosecutors, there's no going back. Damien's going down hard. And Lauren made her choice, I said. Now I'm making mine. 3 days later, the FBI got involved. They showed up at my house with 2 agents in dark suits and serious expressions. They asked me questions for 4 hours. They took copies of everything I had. They took Rachel's documents. They asked if I'd be willing to wear a wire if Damien tried to contact me. I said yes. The investigation expanded. More victims came forward. A man in Ohio who'd lost his parents' inheritance. A woman in Florida who'd been scammed out of her divorce settlement. An elderly couple in Pennsylvania who'd mortgaged their house based on Damien's promises. The case grew bigger than me. Bigger than Lauren. It became about something larger. About people who prey on trust, who weaponize relationships, who see kindness as weakness. And I was at the center of it. One morning in early May, I was drinking coffee on my porch when a car pulled up. A black SUV, Lauren's. She got out slowly. She looked thin, pale, like she hadn't slept in weeks. She walked up to my porch and stopped at the bottom step. We stared at each other. I need to talk to you, she said finally. Okay. She climbed the steps and sat down in the chair across from me. She didn't look at me, just stared out at the street. They're going to arrest him again, she said. The FBI. They have new charges. Federal charges. His lawyer says he could get 20 years. I didn't say anything. Everyone's telling me to leave him, she continued. My friends, his family, even his lawyer. They say I should file for divorce, protect myself, move on. What do you say? She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. I say I don't know who I am anymore. What do you mean? I mean, she took a shaky breath. I've spent 2 years being Damien's wife, living in his house, wearing the clothes he picked out, going to the parties he wanted to go to, smiling when he told me to smile. And I told myself it was what I wanted, that I was happy, that this was what success looked like. But you weren't happy. No, she wiped her eyes. I was miserable, and I didn't even realize it until everything fell apart. I wanted to reach out to her, to hug her, to tell her it would be okay, but I didn't move. He lied to me about the money, she said, about all of it. He told me you were being difficult, that you'd offered to invest more and then backed out. He said you were trying to sabotage him because you couldn't stand to see me successful. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him, because if I didn't... She trailed off. If I didn't believe him, then I had to admit I'd been wrong. About him. About us. About everything. You weren't wrong to want a good life, Lauren. You were wrong to think it had to come at my expense. She nodded slowly. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. The words hung in the air between us. I wanted to accept them, to forgive her and move on and pretend none of this had happened. But I couldn't. Not yet. Sorry doesn't fix what's broken, I said quietly. I know. And it doesn't erase what you did, how you treated me, how you chose him over me, over and over again. I know. So what do you want from me right now, Lauren? Forgiveness? Permission? Absolution? She shook her head. I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what he did, what I let him do, and I'm going to fix it. How? I'm filing for divorce. I'm cooperating with the FBI. I'm telling them everything I know about his business, his accounts, his contacts, everything. I stared at her. You're testifying against him? Yes? That's going to make you a target. His lawyers, his associates, everyone he's scammed, they'll all come after you. I don't care. She met my eyes, and for the first time in years, I saw the daughter I used to know. Stubborn, determined, real. I'm done protecting him. I'm done lying. I'm done pretending. What about the house, the car, all the things he bought? They can take it all. I don't want any of it. She stood up. I'm moving out tomorrow. I'm staying with a friend until I figure out what's next. But I wanted to tell you first. I stood too. We faced each other on that porch, two women who'd been strangers for too long. Thank you for telling me, I said. She nodded, started to leave, then stopped. Mom? Yeah? I don't expect you to forgive me. Not now, maybe not ever, but I need you to know. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, to be someone you can be proud of again. My throat tightened. I never stopped being proud of you, Lauren. I stopped recognizing you. She smiled sadly. Yeah, me too. She walked down the steps, got in her car, and drove away. I sat back down in my chair and let the tears come. Not tears of sadness, not tears of joy, just tears. The call from Rita came 3 days after Lauren's visit. Her voice was different, lighter, almost excited. The prosecutors want to offer you restitution, she said. Full restitution. Every penny he took, plus damages. I set down my coffee cup. How? They're seizing his assets, the house, the cars, his business accounts, everything. They found offshore accounts too, accounts Lauren didn't even know about. He's been hiding money for years. Once they liquidate it all, they estimate you'll get back around $90,000, maybe more. 90,000. More than what he'd stolen. More than I'd lost. But somehow the number felt empty. What about the other victims? I asked. They'll get restitution too. The court's setting up a fund to distribute the seized assets proportionally. And Damien? His trial starts in August. With Rachel's testimony and the evidence from the other victims, the prosecutors are confident. They're expecting a guilty verdict on at least 10 of the 15 counts. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. I should have felt relief, victory, something. Instead, I just felt tired. What about Lauren? I asked. Rita paused. What about her? Is she in trouble for helping him? The prosecutors don't think so. She cooperated fully, turned over everything she had. They believe she was a victim too, manipulated, controlled. They're not pressing charges. Good, I said, and I meant it. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet kitchen and tried to process it all. In 4 months, my entire life had been torn apart and reassembled. I'd lost my daughter, found her again, sort of, and watched a man I'd trusted reveal himself as a monster. And now it was almost over. Except it wasn't, not really, because Lauren was living in a studio apartment across town, working as a waitress to pay her bills. Because I still woke up some nights remembering the look on her face at that Christmas dinner. Because the space between us was still there, wide and deep, and filled with everything we'd said and everything we hadn't. I didn't know how to cross it, or if I even should. 2 weeks later, I was at the grocery store when I saw him, Damien. He was standing by the pharmacy counter, looking thinner than I remembered, wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt instead of his usual tailored suits. His hair was longer, unwashed. He looked like someone who'd stopped trying. Our eyes met across the aisle. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he started walking toward me. Every instinct told me to run, to grab my cart and get out of there. But I stood my ground. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to talk, far enough that I could scream if I needed to. Evelyn, he said. I didn't respond. I just wanted to say... He looked down. I'm sorry. For what I did. For all of it. I stared at him. You're sorry. Yes. You stole over $100,000 from me. You ruined my retirement. You destroyed your marriage. You hurt at least 8 other people that we know of. And you're sorry? He flinched. I know it's not enough. I know nothing I say will fix it. But I need you to know I didn't set out to hurt you. I got in over my head. I made bad choices, and I couldn't find a way out. So you kept digging. Yeah. He rubbed his face. Yeah, I did. Did you ever love her? I asked. Lauren, did you ever actually love her, or was she just another mark? He looked up, and for the first time I saw something genuine in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. I loved her, he said quietly. I still do, but I love the life more. The image, the idea of who I could be, and I sacrificed everything real to keep that illusion alive. You sacrificed her. I know. We stood there in the fluorescent lighting of the grocery store, surrounded by strangers buying milk and bread. And I realized something. I didn't hate him. I should have. I wanted to. But looking at him now, broken, desperate, pathetic, I just felt sad. I hope you figure out who you are without the lies, I said, because whoever that person is, they deserve a chance at a real life. But you won't get that chance for a long time. I know, he said again. I turned and walked away, left my cart right there in the aisle and walked out of the store. My hands were shaking by the time I got to my car. But this time, they weren't shaking from fear or anger. They were shaking from release. That night, Lauren called me. Mom, I heard what happened at the store. Someone saw you and Damien talking and told me, are you okay? I'm fine, I said. What did he say to you? He apologized. She was quiet. Did you believe him? I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't matter. An apology doesn't erase what he did. No, she said softly. It doesn't. I heard something in her voice, something raw. Lauren, are you okay? She laughed, but it sounded broken. I don't think I've been okay in a really long time. Do you want to come over? Silence. Then, can I? Of course. She arrived 20 minutes later, carrying nothing but her purse and wearing clothes I didn't recognize. Cheap clothes. Thrift store clothes, maybe. She looked more like herself than she had in years. We sat on my couch, the same couch where she used to do homework while I cooked dinner, where we'd watch movies on Friday nights, where she'd cried on my shoulder after her first breakup. I don't know how to do this, she said finally. Do what? Start over. Be alone. Be me. I reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. You don't have to know right now, I said. You just have to take the next step, and then the next one. What if I mess it up? Then you mess it up, and you try again. She looked at me, eyes shining. I'm scared, Mom. I know, but you're also brave, braver than you think. I don't feel brave. Brave people never do. They just do the hard thing anyway. She leaned against me then, her head on my shoulder like she used to when she was little. And we sat there in the quiet, not fixing anything, not solving anything, just being. The trial started in August like Rita had predicted. I didn't attend most of it. I couldn't stomach sitting in that courtroom watching Damien's lawyers try to spin his crimes into misunderstandings and miscommunications. But I was there for the verdict. The courtroom was packed. Victims filled the gallery. Reporters lined the back wall. Lauren sat 3 rows behind me, alone. When the jury foreman stood and read the verdict, guilty on 12 of 15 counts, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindication. I felt exhausted. Damien's face didn't change. He just stared straight ahead, like he'd expected this all along. The judge set sentencing for 6 weeks later. Damien was remanded into custody immediately. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back once. Not at his lawyers, not at the reporters, at Lauren. She looked away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I pushed through them without saying a word, Rita running interference beside me. Mrs. Carter, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you think justice was served? What would you say to other victims of financial fraud? I kept walking. I didn't know them anything. Lauren was waiting by my car. Hey, she said. Hey, you okay? Are you? She shrugged. I don't know. I thought I'd feel something when they read the verdict. Relief, maybe, or anger, but I just feel empty. That's normal. Is it? I think so. We stood there in the parking lot, neither of us quite sure what to do next. Do you want to get dinner? I asked. She blinked, surprised. Really? Really? We ended up at a diner neither of us had been to before. Neutral ground. We ordered burgers and fries and ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lauren spoke. I got accepted into a community college program, medical billing and coding. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, and I can do it online while I work. That's great, Lauren. Yeah, she picked at her fries. I'm also seeing a therapist twice a week. She says I have codependency issues and trauma bonding and a bunch of other stuff I'm trying to understand. How's that going? It's hard, but I think it's helping. She looked up at me. She asked me to write you a letter, an apology. A real one, not just I'm sorry, one where I take actual responsibility for what I did. Did you write it? Yeah, but I haven't sent it yet. I'm scared. Of what? That it won't be enough. That you'll read it and realize you can't forgive me. I set down my burger. Lauren, I need you to understand something. I don't know if I can forgive you completely. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. What happened between us? It cut deep. Deeper than the money. Deeper than Damien. You looked at me on Christmas Eve and decided I wasn't worth your respect, and that hurt more than anything he did. Her eyes filled with tears. I know, but I also need you to know that I haven't given up on you. On us. I'm here. I'm trying, and I'm willing to see where this goes. Even if it takes years? Even if it takes years. She wiped her eyes. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, but you're stuck with me anyway. She laughed, a real laugh, and I felt something shift between us. Not healing, exactly, but the beginning of it. Sentencing day came in October. The leaves were turning gold and red, falling slowly like the world was shedding its old skin. I sat in the courtroom and listened as victim after victim gave their impact statements. The man from Ohio who'd lost his parents' inheritance. The woman from Florida who'd been evicted from her apartment. The elderly couple from Pennsylvania who'd nearly lost their home. Each story was different. Each story was the same. Damien had seen their trust and used it as a weapon. When it was my turn to speak, I walked to the podium on shaky legs. The judge looked down at me. Mrs. Carter, you may proceed. I unfolded my prepared statement. I'd written it and rewritten it a dozen times, but standing there, looking at Damien across the courtroom, I realized I didn't need it. I folded the paper and set it down. Your Honor, I came here today planning to tell you how Damien Holt destroyed my retirement, violated my trust, and nearly ruined my life. And all of that is true. He did those things. But standing here now, I realize something else. He didn't destroy me. He tried, but he failed. Because I'm still here. I'm still standing, and I'm stronger now than I was before. I turned to look at Damien directly. You thought I was weak. You thought I was someone you could use and discard. You were wrong. And I hope that wherever you end up, whatever happens to you, you learn that people's kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. And when you treat it like a resource to exploit, you lose the only thing that ever really mattered, your humanity. I walked back to my seat. My legs were still shaking, but my voice had been steady. The judge sentenced Damien to 18 years in federal prison, no parole eligibility for at least 12. As they led him away, he looked at Lauren one more time. This time, she looked back, and then he was gone. Outside, the autumn air was cool and crisp. Lauren and I stood on the courthouse steps, watching people file past. What now? She asked. Now we figure out how to live, I said. Together? I looked at her, really looked at her. She was different now, older, worn down, but also more real, more present. Together, I said, one day at a time. She nodded. I'd like that. We walked to the parking lot together. Before we reached our cars, she stopped. Mom? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. I hugged her then, held her tight. She hugged me back just as hard. I love you, I whispered. I love you too. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It wasn't everything fixed and perfect and tied up in a bow. But it was a beginning. And sometimes that's enough. That night, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and watched the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, the kind of beauty that makes you believe the world might actually be okay. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. Sent you the letter. Don't read it tonight. Wait until you're ready. I opened my email. There it was, 3 pages long. I stared at the preview for a moment, then I closed my phone. I'd read it tomorrow, or the next day, when I was ready. Because healing doesn't happen on anyone's schedule. It happens slowly, quietly, in moments you don't expect. And I was finally learning that some things are worth waiting for. 3 months later, I was cleaning out my garage when I found a box I'd forgotten about. Inside were old photo albums, baby clothes, report cards from Lauren's elementary school years. At the bottom was a card she'd made me when she was 8. Mother's Day. Construction paper and glitter glue. You're the best mom ever. I'll love you forever and ever. Lauren. I sat there on the concrete floor of my garage holding that card, and I cried. Not because I was sad, not because I was happy, but because I'd survived. I'd stood up for myself. I'd fought back. I'd lost things and found things and learned that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought with people you love. And I was still here, still standing, still fighting, and I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The restitution check arrived in November, $93,000. More than I'd lost. More than I'd expected. I deposited it and sat in the bank parking lot staring at the receipt. Then I called Lauren. Hey, Mom. Hey, you busy? Just getting off my shift. Why? I got the restitution check. Silence. Oh, that's good, right? Yeah, it's good. I paused. I was thinking maybe we could take a trip. You and me. Somewhere neither of us has been. A trip? Yeah, maybe a week. Nothing fancy, just time together. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Lauren? I'm here. Her voice cracked. Yeah, yes, I'd love that. Okay, good. Mom? Yeah? I read your victim impact statement. The court reporter sent me a transcript. What you said about not giving up, about being stronger, that's who I want to be. That's who I want you to see when you look at me. I already see her, I said softly. Really? Really. We planned the trip for January, somewhere warm, somewhere with ocean and sunshine and no memories attached. And as I drove home that day, windows down, radio playing, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Hope. Not the naive kind. Not the kind that ignores reality or pretends everything's fine, but the hard-won kind. The kind that knows the world can be cruel and people can hurt you and trust can be shattered, but also knows that you can survive it all. You can stand up, you can fight back, and you can rebuild something better than what you lost. Because at the end of the day, the only person who gets to decide your worth is you. And I'd finally decided I was worth fighting for. January arrived cold and clear. Lauren and I flew to South Carolina, a beach town neither of us had ever heard of, picked almost at random from a travel website. No expectations, no pressure, just sand and ocean and 7 days to figure out if we could actually rebuild what we'd lost. The first day was awkward. We didn't know how to be around each other without all the anger and pain hanging between us like smoke. We walked on the beach in silence, ate dinner making small talk about the weather, went to bed early in our separate rooms. On the second day, Lauren asked if we could talk. We sat on the porch of our rental cottage, coffee in hand, watching the waves roll in. I read your statement from the sentencing, she said. The whole thing, not just the transcript. Someone recorded it and posted it online. I winced. I didn't know that. It's everywhere. Victim advocacy groups are sharing it. There are articles calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. Maybe not. But you're brave. She looked at me. You stood up when everyone expected you to back down. You fought when it would have been easier to just disappear, and you did it even though it cost you me. It almost cost me you, I corrected. You're here. Barely. She set her mug down. Mom, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. My stomach tightened. Okay? When I was with Damien, he used to say things about you. Not just at Christmas. All the time. He'd call you pathetic, desperate, clingy. He'd say you were trying to control my life because you didn't have one of your own. And She stopped, her voice breaking. I believed him. Or maybe I wanted to believe him because it was easier than admitting I'd married someone who treated people like garbage. I felt the words hit me, each one a small cut. He'd talk about you like you were this burden he had to tolerate for my sake, she continued. And I'd sit there and nod. Sometimes I'd even laugh. I let him mock you, belittle you, erase you. And I told myself it was fine because you didn't know. But that's worse, isn't it? That I was okay with it as long as you didn't hear it? Yes, I said quietly. It is. She wiped her eyes. I read this thing online about how abusers isolate their victims. They turn you against the people who love you. They make you think everyone else is the problem. And I kept thinking that's not what happened to me. I wasn't abused. I was just in a bad marriage. But then my therapist asked me when was the last time I made a decision without considering what Damien would think. And I couldn't remember. Not a single decision. Not what to wear, what to eat, who to talk to. Nothing. Lauren, I'm not saying this to make excuses, she said quickly. What I did to you, how I treated you, that's on me. But I need you to understand that I wasn't myself. I'd lost myself so completely that I didn't even realize I was gone. I reached over and took her hand. I know. Do you forgive me? The question hung in the air between us. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to make it easy, but I couldn't lie to her. I'm working on it, I said. Some days I wake up and I'm so angry I can barely breathe. Other days I'm just sad. But I'm here. I'm trying, and that's all I can give you right now. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. That's enough. That's more than I deserve. We sat there holding hands, watching the ocean, and I felt something crack open inside me. Not breaking, just opening, making room for something new. On the third day, we went to an art gallery. I hadn't been to one in years. Too expensive, too fancy, not for someone like me. But Lauren insisted. We're on vacation, she said. We're allowed to do impractical things. The gallery was small, tucked between a coffee shop and a surf rental place. Inside were paintings by local artists, seascapes and abstracts and portraits that looked like they'd been painted with feeling instead of skill. I stopped in front of a canvas. It was mostly blue and gray, with violent slashes of red cutting through the center. It looked like pain, like anger, like everything I'd felt over the past year. You like that one? Lauren asked. I don't know if like is the right word. I get it. She stood beside me. It's kind of how I feel most days, like I'm trying to be calm and put together, but underneath there's just this chaos. Yeah, I said. Exactly. The artist walked over, a woman in her 60s with paint-stained jeans and wild gray hair. That piece is called After, she said. I painted it after my divorce. It's about what's left when someone takes everything you thought you were and burns it down. I looked at her. Did you survive it? She smiled. I'm here, aren't I? That's not what I asked. Her smile faded into something more real. Some days I survive it. Some days I just exist next to it. But I'm still painting, still making something out of the mess. So yeah, I guess I survived. I bought the painting. It cost more than I should have spent, but I didn't care. I needed a reminder that pain could be transformed into something else. Something that mattered. On the fourth day, Lauren told me she'd filed the final divorce papers. It'll be official in 6 months, she said. Texas law. You have to wait. How do you feel? Relieved, terrified, free, trapped, all of it at once. That sounds about right. She laughed softly. I thought I'd feel different when I signed them, like a weightlifting, but I just felt tired. That's normal. Is it? I think so. Endings are exhausting. We were sitting on the beach, bare feet in the sand, watching the sun set. The sky was on fire, orange and pink and purple bleeding together. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret it? Filing the lawsuit, pressing charges, all of it. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It cost me more than I expected, but it also gave me something back. What? Myself. She rested her head on my shoulder. I want that. I want to feel like myself again. You will. It just takes time. How much time? I don't know, but you're already doing the work. That's what matters. On the 5th day, we had our first real fight since the trial. It started over something stupid. I'd suggested she apply for a different job, something with better pay, and she'd snapped at me. I'm doing fine at the diner, Mom. I didn't say you weren't. I just thought, you thought I should do better, be better, Have more ambition. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. She stood up from the breakfast table. You're doing it again, trying to fix me, trying to manage my life. I'm trying to help you. I don't need your help. I need you to trust that I can figure this out on my own. I do trust you. No, you don't. You're acting like I'm still that girl who married Damien without thinking. But I'm not her anymore. I'm different. I know you're different. Then stop treating me like I'm broken. The words echoed in the small cottage. We stared at each other, both breathing hard. Is that what you think I'm doing? I asked quietly. She deflated, sat back down. I don't know. Maybe. I feel like you're waiting for me to screw up again. Like you don't believe I can actually change. Lauren, I believe in you, but I'm also allowed to worry. Worrying and controlling aren't the same thing. I'm not trying to control you. Then what are you trying to do? I thought about it, really examined my motivations. I'm trying to protect you, I said finally, from making the same mistakes, from getting hurt again, from ending up where you were a year ago. But you can't protect me from everything, Mom. I have to learn. I have to fall down and get back up. That's how I get stronger. She was right. I knew she was right. But letting go, actually letting go, was harder than I'd imagined. I'm sorry, I said. You're right. I'll back off. I'm not asking you to back off. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm working on it. She smiled sadly. We're both working on a lot of things, aren't we? Yeah, we are. We spent the rest of the day in careful silence, giving each other space. But that night she knocked on my door. Can I come in? Of course. She sat on the edge of my bed. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm sorry for hovering. We're kind of a mess, aren't we? Yeah, I said. But we're a mess together. She laughed. That's something, I guess. On the 6th day, we went kayaking. Neither of us had ever done it before, and we were terrible at it. We kept bumping into each other, spinning in circles, nearly tipping over. But we were laughing, really laughing, the kind of laughter that makes your stomach hurt and your eyes water. When we finally made it back to shore, soaking wet and exhausted, Lauren looked at me. That was fun. That was chaos. Same thing. We dragged the kayaks up the beach and collapsed in the sand. Mom? Yeah? Thank you for this trip, for giving me a chance. Thank you for taking it. She rolled over to look at me. Do you think we'll be okay? Like actually okay? I thought about everything we'd been through, the pain, the betrayal, the slow, painful work of rebuilding trust. I don't know, I said honestly, but I think we're going to try, and that's more than we had a year ago. Yeah, she said softly. It is. On the 7th day, our last day, we sat on the porch at sunrise. The sky was just beginning to lighten, painting everything in shades of gray and gold. I don't want to go home, Lauren said. Me neither. But we have to. Yeah, we do. She was quiet for a moment. What happens now, when we get back to real life? I don't know. We figure it out as we go. That's terrifying. It is, but it's also kind of exciting. She looked at me. When did you get so optimistic? I'm not optimistic. I'm realistic. I know it's going to be hard. I know we're going to have bad days, but I also know we survived the worst of it. And if we can survive that, we can survive anything. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what was it all for? She nodded slowly. Yeah, okay. We flew home that afternoon. When we landed, Lauren hugged me in the airport. Same time next year? She asked. Same time next year, I agreed. 3 months later, I was in my garden planting tomatoes when Lauren's car pulled into my driveway. She got out carrying a cardboard box. What's that? I asked, wiping dirt off my hands. Letters. From the other victims. They started writing to me after the trial, thanking me for testifying, sharing their stories. There are over 50 of them. She set the box down on my porch steps. Why are you bringing them to me? Because I think you should see them. I think you should know how many people you helped. I opened the box. Inside were envelopes of all sizes, some typed, some handwritten. I pulled one out at random and opened it. Dear Mrs. Carter, I saw your victim impact statement online. I want you to know that it gave me the courage to report my brother-in-law for stealing from my mother. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for fighting back. You saved more than just yourself. I read another, and another. Each one told a story of someone who'd been hurt, who'd been taken advantage of, who'd finally found the strength to say no because I had. I didn't do this for them, I said, my voice thick.
I know, but you helped them anyway. I looked up at Lauren. Did you read all of these? Every single one. And I realized something. You didn't just save yourself, you saved me too. I stood up and hugged her. She hugged me back, tight and real. I'm proud of you, Mom, she whispered. I'm proud of you too. 6 months after that, I was sitting in my kitchen when Rita called. I have news, she said. Damien's appealing his sentence. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means his lawyers think they can get it reduced. They're arguing that the prosecution overcharged him, that some of the evidence was inadmissible, the usual appeals process. It probably won't go anywhere, but I wanted you to know. Will I have to testify again? Possibly, but probably not for another year or more. Appeals take time. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the wall. I thought this was over. I thought I could move on, but trauma doesn't work that way. It doesn't follow a timeline. It doesn't wait until you're ready. I called Lauren. He's appealing, I said. I know. His lawyer sent me a letter. Are you okay? Are you? I thought about it. I don't know yet. Me neither. But we'll figure it out. Together? Together. A year after the trial, I did something I'd been thinking about for months. I started a support group for victims of financial fraud. We met once a week in the community center, 12 people, all with stories like mine, all trying to rebuild. Lauren came to the first meeting. I'm not a victim, she said when I asked why, but I want to support you. And I think I need to hear these stories. I need to remember what happened so I don't let it happen again. The group grew. 10 people became 20, 20 became 40. We started a website, a newsletter, a hotline for people who needed advice. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't special. I was just someone who'd been hurt and decided to do something about it. But apparently that was enough. On what would have been my second Christmas after the trial, Lauren came to my house carrying a box. I made you something, she said. Inside was a scrapbook, photos from our trip to South Carolina, ticket stubs, receipts, pressed flowers from the beach, and in the front, written in her handwriting, the year we found each other again. I cried, ugly, messy tears that I didn't try to hide. Thank you, I managed. Thank you, she said, for not giving up on me. I'll never give up on you. I know, and I'll never take that for granted again. We spent Christmas together that year, just the two of us. Turkey sandwiches instead of a fancy dinner, cheap wine instead of champagne, a small tree I decorated myself. It was perfect. Not because everything was fixed, not because we'd erased the past, but because we were there, together, trying. And that was all that mattered. 2 years after the trial, Damien's appeal was denied. His sentence stood, 18 years. I felt nothing when Rita told me. No relief, no satisfaction, just acceptance. He was gone. He couldn't hurt me anymore. And I could finally, truly move on. Lauren graduated from her medical billing program that spring. She got a job at a hospital, better pay, benefits, a future. I'm thinking about going back to school, she told me over dinner. Maybe nursing, like you. You'd be good at it. You think so? I know so, she smiled. I'm also thinking about moving, getting a bigger apartment, something that's mine, not a place I'm hiding in, a place I'm building. That sounds perfect. Will you help me look? Of course. 3 years after the trial, I retired from the support group. Not because I was done healing, but because I'd said what I needed to say, done what I needed to do. It was time to live. I started painting, bad paintings, amateur paintings, paintings that would never hang in a gallery. But they were mine, and they made me happy. I traveled, not far, not fancy, but I went places I'd always wanted to see. I did things I'd always wanted to do, and I stopped apologizing for taking up space in the world. Lauren met someone new that year, a teacher, kind, patient, nothing like Damien. I'm scared, she told me. That's okay. You should be.
But don't let fear stop you from trying. What if I mess it up?
Then you mess it up. But at least you'll have tried. She introduced me to him 3 months later. His name was Marcus. He shook my hand and looked me in the eye and asked me about myself. Not as Lauren's mother, but as a person. I liked him immediately. He's good, I told her later. I think so too. But I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to turn into someone else. That's trauma talking. I know, my therapist says the same thing.
Are you still seeing her? Twice a month now. Down from twice a week. Progress. That is progress. 4 years after the trial, Lauren got engaged. Marcus proposed at the beach, the same beach where we'd gone on our trip. He'd asked my permission first, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. I love her, he'd said, and I know she comes with you. I'm okay with that. More than okay. I want that. I'd cried. Happy tears this time. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. I wore a dress I'd bought myself, not expensive, not fancy, but beautiful in its simplicity. I watched Lauren walk down the aisle, and I saw the girl I'd raised, the woman she'd become, the person she was still becoming. And I felt proud. Not because she'd married someone good, not because she'd rebuilt her life, but because she'd survived. We both had. 5 years after the trial, Lauren called me on Christmas Eve. Mom? Yeah, sweetheart? I'm pregnant. I dropped the dish I was holding. It shattered on the floor. Say that again. I'm pregnant, 12 weeks. We just had the ultrasound. I sat down hard on the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken ceramic. Mom, are you okay? I'm going to be a grandmother. Yeah, you are. I started crying, laughing and crying at the same time. I'm so happy for you, Lauren. I'm terrified. That's normal. What if I'm a bad mom? What if I mess this up? You won't. How do you know? Because you've spent the last 5 years learning how to be honest, how to set boundaries, how to ask for help. You're going to be an amazing mother. I want to be like you. No, you don't. You want to be like you, the best version of yourself. And that's exactly who you should be. The baby was born in August. A girl. They named her Evelyn. I held her in the hospital, this tiny, perfect thing, and I felt the weight of everything I'd survived, everything I'd fought for. This was why. Not for revenge, not for justice, not even for myself, but for the chance to be here, to hold my granddaughter, to watch my daughter become a mother, to know that despite everything, despite the pain and the betrayal and the loss, love had won. Not the fairy tale kind, not the easy kind, but the real kind. The hard-fought, hard-won, impossibly resilient kind. The kind that survives. The kind that endures. The kind that transforms you into someone stronger, braver, more fully alive. I looked at Lauren, exhausted and radiant in her hospital bed, and I smiled. You did good, kiddo. We did good, Mom. Yeah, I said, my voice breaking. We did. And as I held that baby, my granddaughter, my legacy, my second chance, I made a promise. I promised her a grandmother who knew her worth, who wouldn't compromise her dignity for anyone, who would teach her that kindness was strength, not weakness, that standing up for yourself wasn't selfish, that love without respect was worthless. I promised her the truth, the messy, complicated, beautiful truth, that life will hurt you, people will disappoint you, you'll make mistakes and lose things and question everything, but you'll survive. And on the other side of survival, you'll find something you didn't expect. Yourself. Stronger. Wiser. Free. I kissed baby Evelyn's forehead and whispered, Welcome to the world, sweetheart. It's going to be hard sometimes, but it's also going to be beautiful, and you're going to be just fine, because you come from survivors. Lauren reached over and took my hand. Thank you, Mom, for everything. Thank you for coming back. I never really left. I was just lost for a while. We both were. But we found our way home. Yeah, I said, looking at my daughter, my granddaughter, the family we'd rebuilt from the ruins. We did. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. Not the money I'd recovered, not the justice I'd won, not the villain who'd been punished. But this moment, this love, this proof that you can lose everything and still have something worth fighting for. Because family isn't just blood, it's not just DNA or obligation or tradition. It's choice. Every single day, you choose to show up, choose to forgive, choose to try again. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the people you love choose you back. That's grace. That's redemption. That's what makes all the pain worth it. I'd lost my daughter once. I'd found her again. And I'd never take that for granted, because I knew now what I hadn't known before. Love isn't measured in money or gifts or grand gestures. It's measured in showing up, in setting boundaries, in saying no when you need to and yes when it matters. It's measured in second chances and hard conversations and the willingness to sit in discomfort until you find your way through. That's the lesson I learned in the hardest year of my life, and it's the lesson I'll carry with me until my last breath. You are worth fighting for. Your dignity matters. Your boundaries matter. Your peace matters. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't deserve a place in your life. Not your daughter, not your son-in-law, not anyone. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can save you is you. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stand up and say enough, everything changes. Not overnight, not perfectly, not without struggle, but it changes. And you change with it. Into someone stronger, someone braver, someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle for less. That's who I became. That's who Lauren became. And that's who little Evelyn will become too. Because we're survivors. And survivors don't just endure, they thrive. And as I held that baby, my granddaughter, my legacy, my second chance, I made a promise. I promised her a grandmother who knew her worth, who wouldn't compromise her dignity for anyone, who would teach her that kindness was strength, not weakness, that standing up for yourself wasn't selfish, that love without respect was worthless. I promised her the truth, the messy, complicated, beautiful truth, that life will hurt you, people will disappoint you, you'll make mistakes and lose things and question everything, but you'll survive. And on the other side of survival, you'll find something you didn't expect, yourself, stronger, wiser, free. I kissed baby Evelyn's forehead and whispered, "Welcome to the world, sweetheart. It's going to be hard sometimes, but it's also going to be beautiful, and you're going to be just fine, because you come from survivors." Lauren reached over and took my hand. "Thank you, Mom, for everything. Thank you for coming back. I never really left. I was just lost for a while. We both were, but we found our way home." "Yeah," I said, looking at my daughter, my granddaughter, the family we'd rebuilt from the ruins. "We did." And that, in the end, was all that mattered. Not the money I'd recovered, not the justice I'd won, not the villain who'd been punished, but this moment, this love, this proof that you can lose everything and still have something worth fighting for. Because family isn't just blood, it's not just DNA or obligation or tradition, it's choice. Every single day, you choose to show up, choose to forgive, choose to try again. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the people you love choose you back. That's grace, that's redemption, that's what makes all the pain worth it. I'd lost my daughter once. I'd found her again, and I'd never take that for granted, because I knew now what I hadn't known before. Love isn't measured in money or gifts or grand gestures. It's measured in showing up, in setting boundaries, in saying no when you need to and yes when it matters. It's measured in second chances and hard conversations and the willingness to sit in discomfort until you find your way through. That's the lesson I learned in the hardest year of my life, and it's the lesson I'll carry with me until my last breath. You're worth fighting for. Your dignity matters. Your boundaries matter. Your peace matters. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't deserve a place in your life. Not your daughter, not your son-in-law, not anyone. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can save you is you. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stand up and say enough, everything changes. Not overnight, not perfectly, not without struggle, but it changes. And you change with it into someone stronger, someone braver, someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle for less. That's who I became, that's who Lauren became, and that's who little Evelyn will become too. Because we're survivors. And survivors don't just endure, they thrive.